All right, let's go ahead and start. First off, this is a topic that it's one of the most important things to me, and it is really a blessing to be able to have a career in which I'm able to teach the principles of legacy. I don't know if you're like me, but I think this is in my experience, it's part of human nature where we have this internal desire to contribute to the world based on who we are. It sounds somewhat trite. At the same time, that that drive is it's been evident in my own life. I've seen it in family's life. You've seen it in clients' lives, and oftentimes we don't necessarily have a guide, a guidebook or a playbook on how to do it. And so I'm going to get into just a few ideas today that I hope are valuable to you. So I'll start with the story. Last year during quarantine, of course, like many of you, spent a lot of time with my family. And I have 2 teenage daughters and then a 7-year-old son. My 7-year-old and my almost 17-year-old, they have very different personalities. And my 17-year-old, because they both know each other's buttons, which is really funny to watch as an outside observer. But my daughter Hannah, my oldest daughter, said, I never want to have kids. I never want to have kids. Imagine, me doing this all the time. And she asked the question, like, why did you have kids? And it was a really interesting discussion. And obviously she was in some heat of emotion, but it led to just some really cool conversation around this natural, we're compelled to do it. It wasn't, I logically thought about having kids. Like I emotionally felt that and desired that I wanted to have kids and have a family and teach them and rear them. And that's what continues to, be inside of me as far as what I want to give back. And I look at how others, whether they have kids or not, married or not, that desire also exists on a certain level. And so I'm gonna approach legacy in a few different ways today. And I hope that 1, 2, or at least one of these ways applies directly to you and how you think about legacy. There may be a few others, and perhaps in the future you'll encounter phases of your life where one of these other ways is applicable and relevant. But I'm gonna first start off by saying, that the company I formed in 2007. It's been, like I said, a blessing just to be able to do business virtually, meet thousands of clients all across the country, all different socioeconomic statuses, different cultures. We even have clients outside of the United States. And it's been an honor. It's been a blessing because I've been able to meet so many amazing people and teach them what I believe in and learn from them as well. But we've developed, a mission because we know at our company that millions of people are following financial advice that it prevents the future that they deserve. And so our mission is to come alongside clients and develop and implement a personalized wealth strategy that empowers people to live a more fulfilling life right now and also ensure a future of their dreams. And looking at the different strategies that we deploy and believe in, most of it revolves around legacy. So that desire, assuming that you have a desire to contribute, to give back, to find out something that is unique to you and contribute that, whether it's to your family, whether that's to a business, whether that's to your community, I believe that is that's legacy. But paradoxically, some people associate legacy with needing to have money. You need to have a lot of wealth before you're concerned with legacy. I think money helps, but money is ultimately a magnifier. And so I believe that these 3 different levels of leaving a legacy is it's something that will change your life. You'll be able to understand it better and be able to feed that hunger that's inside of you that wants to contribute, wants to give back. And so I'm going to tell a story first. This is someone I don't know personally. I'm actually doing one of her husband's kind of crazy physical events. You hike up and down a mountain, the equivalent of the elevation of Mount Everest. She's a crazy husband, Jesse Itzler. But I'm going to tell a story that I heard at an event a couple of years ago from the founder of Spanx. If you guys are familiar with Spanx, they're these, kind of undergarments that, make you look. It started off with women where they would, have something that would make a dress fit well, or you can go listen to her story. She explains it a lot better than I am. And men, there's Spanx for men. But anyway, it's $1 billion company and it's privately held. She's really successful. Her name's Sarah Blakely. Great person to follow on social media. Just great family in general. And she tells a story about her, one of the things she learned from her father in her childhood that she accredits to her success. And it's something that her father did at their dinner table, where they would come home and he wouldn't ask what went well today. He would ask, where did you fail? What were your failures? Where did you fall short? And what did you learn from that? So the reason why I bring up this story is because it teaches a really valuable lesson, that legacy is something that's already inside of us, because we've had influences of our parents who, you go back a generation before, were influenced by their parents, who were influenced by their parents, right? We're a byproduct of legacy. And I think if we understood the fact that moments, even the smallest moments, can create a completely different future, and our legacy, we're going to start to understand how valuable life is, and being prepared for the different moments in which we interact with people. It could be your kids, it could be a stranger, but the power of an idea, especially for Sarah Blakely, business is obviously something that is really challenging. That's why most businesses do not succeed past a certain point. But learning how to understand failure, we're taught in school that failure is a bad thing. We get F's. F's are bad. F's mean, it created a meaning, especially in American society, that there's something wrong with you, okay? That you're not good enough, that you're not meant for this, that, or the other. But recontextualizing failure was huge, because it led someone who was driven, but also understood the purpose of failure. And ultimately that understanding led her to create a multi-billion-dollar company. It's a powerful story. You can find it all over social media. But Sarah Blakely, incredible, I would say, indirect mentor. Her and her husband, Jesse Itzler. Jesse Itzler, won't bore you with details, but he developed some private jet company memberships, as well as I think Zico coconut water, and they're both owners of the Atlanta Hawks. Very, very incredible people, very inspirational. But that's a story that I wanted to share first, to show that you don't have to have money. You don't have to have a trust and estate planning. You don't have to have any financial products to actually be influential and empower someone to think differently about something. It can be the moments that you don't expect. And so it's taught me the lesson that the moments with my children, the moments with those that are on my team, my employees, those that I get to speak with just as strangers, the power of an interaction can completely change the course of somebody's life. And so it's valuing those moments. All right, I'm going to give another example, and this is something that's hard to talk about, because it is personal to me. But there's someone I met when I moved out to Salt Lake City in 2003. I actually met him in 2004. But I grew up on the East Coast, moved out here, finished school at the University of Utah, and then I've just stayed here. I've lived in the same neighborhood for almost 20 years now. I've been married for almost 20 years too. And I met someone who had a huge impact on my life. His name is Spencer Hill. He was one of the founders of a pretty popular like Tex-Mex chain that's throughout the West called Café Rio. Incredible entrepreneur, and he died of cancer at 46 years old, and that was back in 2006 when he died. Spencer was an amazing man, and he had three young children at the time. I think the oldest was 11 or 12. Amazing man, but he's the epitome of living life to its fullest. I think sometimes we look at legacy and it's about what we pass on to our kids, to our grandkids, as far as wealth and money at some future point down the road. Spencer, his story as far as what he did with his kids, how he lived life. I mean, there's some crazy things. I'll give you one example. He chartered this boat in the Caribbean, and his kids were young, and they didn't hire a captain. Spencer got his captain's license, and they went down into the Caribbean and almost died. This big storm. And it was incredible hearing. I can just hear his voice telling the story. But the experiences like that, they hiked so many different mountains. They visited every part of Utah. The involvement in his kid's life and sports, it wasn't this, I'm gonna work my ass off for 30 years or 40 years, and then I'll pass on my legacy. I'll worry about legacy then. I'll live my life then. Spencer lived life to the fullest. He didn't know he had cancer until 44 or so, and battled with it for 2 years. But even during it, I remember seeing him. He looked like a skeleton, but his white smile was always there, regardless of the different treatments he went through. Spencer taught me an insanely valuable lesson about living now. Our future isn't promised. It's not guaranteed, right? It's something that we think is 100%, but its probability is definitely less than 100%. In the financial world, we've been conditioned, and you've probably heard this through financial planners, financial advisors, financial planning in general, financial celebrities, that there's this ingrained culture that talks about that retirement is what the end goal is. And the idea is to sacrifice right now in order to achieve that end result, that end goal. And to me, it's 50, 60-year-old advice that for whatever reason has maintained its status in the patterns of how we operate our finances. And it's destructive. Putting off date night, putting off a couple's vacation per year without kids, putting off vacation, putting off doing the things and having the experiences that give life meaning in order to sacrifice, scrimp, and save for some unpromised future. I'm not going to get into retirement planning. At the same time, retirement planning to me is not focused on legacy. And I believe that there's this deep meaning inside of us that desires and it wants to leave something, leave our mark on somebody's heart, leave our mark as far as what we contribute to as society. And I look at what is prevented. Those moments, those experiences are prevented because of a flawed ideology when it comes to financial planning. And so I look at just some of the best investments are the investments in experiences. Of course, there's financial investments. At the same time, there's priorities associated with where you allocate your resources. I believe that flourishing a marriage, having meaningful moments with a spouse, and continuing to perpetuate that love and admiration and affection, that impacts every area of life. It impacts business, it impacts investment, it impacts the way you treat others. But yet, my experience with clients is that money and savings comes first, marriage comes second. And it's not what they would say, but that's what their behavior says, which is ultimately what's most important in effect. And I look at family vacation, having meaningful moments with kids. The experiences I've had with clients over the years. Right now, Paradigm has over 7,000 clients, but the ones that I've been able to personally work with, there was a certain time where there was this series of divorces where these clients had worked so hard. They'd invested, they'd got education, they built up these empires, and underneath it all, what they really wanted was to support their family, was to provide an amazing life for their family. But because of all of those sacrifices, they neglected their family, and it led to divorce, and it led to, in some instances, an alienation of their children. And it pained me. And the lessons that I learned from that impacted me, because I was in that same boat. I was doing the same thing. I still catch myself sometimes. But what it allowed me to understand is that, these are the most important things in my life. This is where I can contribute the most. Okay. And these, ways in which we're conditioned. And I'm in the financial services industry. I have to take the tests and continuing education and licenses. And we're told, right, this is the end result of pretty much anybody. Go to college, get a good job, have benefits, invest in these vehicles, and your goal is this retirement way down the road. The advice isn't live life now. And that's where, again, Paradigm has really put its stake in the ground, where our mission is to understand you. It's to come alongside you. It's to develop a personalized wealth strategy that is specific to your situation. But the end result is different than what I've been trained and taught and educated about what financial services should be. Our mission is to empower you to live a fulfilling life now. Okay, to extract that desire out of your heart and leave that legacy that the world needs. And then you also ensure that you do have a future of your dreams. You don't just live in the present and that's it. You're responsible for the future, but there is a way in which you can design your financial life so that that is the outcome. It's not this hope of retirement way down the road, okay, that is the probability of it happening is not 100%, whether from a financial perspective or how life actually works out. Now, the last thing, that I'm going to talk about, and I may just see if there's questions or comments that are made. I also have a really cool document that I've kind of gathered some material for you guys that has some different books and course and some other things for this around this idea of legacy. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the last thing I'm going to talk about is for those, that do have a foundation in place, right? They have a foundation of family values. They have a foundation of principles. And this is a family that I am not the lead advisor on, but it's a family that we've worked with for many years in the Midwest. And very reputable family. Have had a family business that has lasted a few generations. They have their own family office, which is this back end structure in which they have investment and legal and accounting and personal development and a lot of other things that really inspired me. And what inspired me is, I've seen certain setups, whether it's family offices or estate planning, where it's not based on legacy. It's based on avoiding tax. It's based on avoiding probate. It's based on, asset protection, which is good. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, tax strategy and being able to keep and invest more of what you've earned and spend more of what you've earned. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm saying that those tools, in essence, right, ultimately get dissolved because the foundation is not in place. And that foundation is a foundation of what I've talked about so far, which is understanding that, okay, your legacy doesn't require a trust. It doesn't require these fancy estate planning structures. Okay, legacy can be experiencing the moment with somebody and being inspired and inspiring and leaving a lasting impression, like Sarah Blakely, that led to a multi-billion-dollar business off of a simple idea. And it's also to understand that, I'm prioritizing my life based on what is most important to me, not based on what financial planning tells me I should be doing and how I should be preparing for some, magical result in the future when I'm old. And so this family had a lot of those things, if not all of them, in place. I haven't read through the family documents and the family constitution, a lot of other elements that they had in place, but I was able to interact with them and how they taught their kids and grandkids. I looked at the ways in which they analyzed investments and the ways in which they allocated financial resources, legacy resources, based on merit to kids and grandkids and charities, not based on entitlement, not based on some cookie cutter estate planning structure. And it was so profound to me, and I was able to learn from them as far as, okay, how does money magnify those values? How does it grow those future generations so that money isn't squandered? And I'm going to give you guys a couple of resources right now, because the attorney that put my estate planning together, I'm going to give you his information. He also wrote an incredible book, which I'll talk about in a second. Right. But the lesson here is there's a sequence of events. Right now, you may not be in the place to establish these complex structures. You may be simply in a place where you want a lifestyle where you can experience more with your kids, where you can experience more with your family, with your spouse. Okay. And also, there may be some of you that are not in that situation right now. You may not be married, you may not have kids, but you still can leave a legacy. Okay, we interact with people. People love connecting with people. It's one of those things that drive us. But now understanding that it's just one moment, one idea, one impression that can completely change the course of somebody's life, and how fulfilling, right, and gratifying that is. There's nothing like that. And that doesn't require being married or having kids or having any money. Okay, that doesn't require anything. So that's where these 3 levels of legacy that I wanted to share with you. And now, let me talk about maybe the lesson associated with this one family. This one family, right? It's like they followed that sequence. They understood how important principles and values were in empowering kids and grandkids, and understanding that they're all individuals. And even though they can teach them the same principles, the way in which those principles and values are actually executed, it's going to depend on the unique personality of every individual that's part of their family. So it's understanding that, preparing for that, and then being able to have strategy around fostering that type of mentality so that their kids and grandkids would actually make a difference with that family's family wealth, as opposed to just spend it and squander it like most dynasty families end up experiencing. So it's a powerful, powerful example. So what I wanted to do is just talk about a resource that I wanted to give to you guys. Of course, we're a financial firm that does business online. We have several dozen advisors who work with clients all over the country. We'd love to work with you. If you're already a client of ours, it's still awesome to continue reviewing what's possible for you. What's possible for your business, what's possible for your family, what's possible for your children. We'd love to visit with you. If we haven't done business with you, we offer complimentary consultations, and we do them through Zoom. We'd love to have one with you. So I'm going to give you guys a resource that has a link in there that will allow you to schedule through an online calendar. Very easy to do. At the same time, if you're not ready to take that step, I put together this list of resources that I believe will be valuable to you, that will expand on some of the ideas that I've been talking about in this video. So let's get into some of these resources. I'm going to have a link posted. It's just a simple Google Doc, but it has a link in there to request a consultation. There's also a few books that speak to a lot of what I've been talking about. The first is called The Legacy Family by Hausner and Freeman. I have a link on here that you can purchase it from Amazon. Okay, they talk specifically about that family dynamic. There's also an awesome book by my attorney, Andrew Howell. It's called Entrusted. It's about 6 years old, but still very, very relevant today. And then there's another one that takes it to a different level. And this one's called Family Inc. by Doug McCormick. So I put these 3 books that you guys can check out. They're all available on Amazon. But here's a couple other things that I thought make a huge difference. At least they've been a huge difference in my life, especially during COVID, during quarantine. And there are these basically these little boxes that have cards that you can use at dinner, use at meals, where they initiate discussion. So there's two primary companies. There's many that have come out over the last little bit, but there's one called Best Self, and Best Self has an incredible box for family. It's called Little Talk, and it's basically a box of cards where you have a discussion around what are the most painful moments, what's the happiest moment of your life. What's the story behind how you met your partner? What's the story behind how you decided to do this? So it essentially allows kids to connect with parents on stories and things they've learned that all revolves around principles and values. And it's powerful. Like the stuff that comes out of kids' mouths are incredible because they get to share as well. So it's essentially this card thing that you just, everyone picks a card and it, takes on the challenge and answers the questions that are on the card. So that's the first one. There's another one called Table Topics, and there's a specific Table Topics family. Okay, that these 2 boxes, man, they cost, I think maybe 10, 15 bucks. It totally changes the dynamic of family conversation. They're absolutely incredible. Also, so there's for those that didn't know, I wrote a book a few years ago called Heads I Win, Tails You Lose, a financial strategy to reignite the American dream. I'm including a link where you can download it for free. And there are 3 specific chapters that focus on the theme of this live stream. So the first chapter is chapter 6. The second chapter is 8. And the third chapter is 10. Even if you've read the book, these are shorter chapters, but it's good revisiting sometimes, right? Because typically when we read a book, we're one person. If we haven't read it in a couple of years, we read it again, we're a different person. And so perhaps the information will be even more relevant. So, and it's also available on audio. So we'll include that link in there as well. And like I said, I'm going to be posting these resources so that you guys have access to them. And then finally, several years ago, I think this was 2014, 2015, I created this course called Family Wealth and Legacy. And I'm going to give you guys access to it for free. And you just, put your information in there, and there's several videos that talk about, I probably have more hair and look a lot younger than I do now. But it was really fun doing it. I did with a couple other guys where we were able to share a lot of our experiences in regards to building a family based on legacy. And so that I'll make available to you guys. And then finally, I'm going to give you access to my strategic partner network. This includes my attorney's contact information, his firm. It's York, Howell, and Guyman, based here in Salt Lake City. They've worked with some incredible families. This is definitely, I would say, more advanced estate planning, more structure. But Andrew, he is on point with recognizing and ensuring that family values and principles are a part of that plan. So if you have an estate plan already, if you have wills and trusts set up, they can go through there and help you design it in a way that aligns with the purpose, the objective, the values of your specific family, if you haven't done it that way. And then also there's a good buddy in there that I've known for a number of years. His name is Jim Birch, and he has a company where it's really easy to set up both wills and trusts. You can actually do it without speaking to an attorney, and that's easylegalplanning.com. But I'm going to include that info for you guys as well. Listen, I don't want to take too much of your time because, man, time is all we have, and time is just that, that resource that we can never get back. I appreciate and am super grateful for you taking the time to learn and maybe be reminded of certain things regarding legacy. But again, I'm just going to summarize what I've been speaking to, just so that we kind of connect all those dots in case you're coming in here halfway. The point in doing this was really that regardless of where you're at in life, right, you're leaving a legacy, and it's likely an unintentional legacy, but you can, as you become aware, leave an intentional legacy by living in the moment, being more present, valuing those moments, and recognizing it's one conversation, one idea that completely changes someone's life, and you never know when it's going to come. Moments can live on forever in good or bad ways. And then the second point, right, is that the industry that I'm in continues to beat this 50-year-old, 60-year-old drum of scrimping, saving, and sacrificing the now for something in the future. And it's ultimately just to have more money so that you'll be able to live life then. But I believe that things have changed in so many ways, and reprioritizing where you spend and invest your money. Most people don't consider going on vacation an investment. They don't consider going on a long weekend with a spouse an investment. Those are some of the best investments you can ever make because of what you become because of it, which ultimately leads to more money. But it's one of those things where that is not the normal way in which financial planners and financial planning is structured. And so being able to buck that trend, you're going to have to, step out a little bit, right? And understand, okay, from a principal perspective, does this make sense? And should I structure my wealth strategy with those principles in mind, those values in mind, those priorities in mind, or based on what this 50-year-old drumbeat is telling you to do? And then finally, ideally, we'd love to work with you. I mean, we work with people all around the country, all states, all socioeconomic situations. We'd love to. And so that's why the link is in there so that you guys can look into a free consultation. If not, then this is something you can continue to learn about. And ultimately, the purpose in doing this live stream and speaking about this topic that's near and dear to me is ultimately for you to experience a more fulfilling life. That's our mission, and it's totally possible. Despite a lot of chaos and negative things are happening around the world, there's so many miracles happening, so much innovation. But you have to actually you have to look for it, even though it is all around you. And I believe that that's possible for you. That's the success that can come from really stepping back and thinking about your financial life in a different way. Ultimately, some people choose to just continue on the path that they're on and follow the retirement drumbeat and hope for the end. And I'm not saying that success isn't possible, but my experience has just taught me, and I want you to consider that as a possibility, that success following the beat of that drum is no longer the rule, it's the exception. So guys, thank you. I really appreciate your time. Hope you have an incredible rest of the week, and I hope you're enjoying your summer. And I'm going to go ahead and let's see, maybe I'll see if there are any questions that are being asked or comments being made that I need to address. Let me see if I can pull some of this stuff up.